We are coming back here like a fucking 100 times. I am so mad. I am so fucking mad at these people. They don't do this to fucking me. We're gonna fucking ritualistically humiliate them. I am coming back here every fucking weekend if I have to. Like, this is never over. I win, they fucking lose. That's how the world fucking works. Little fucking kikes. They get ruled by people like me. Little fucking octoroons. My ancestors fucking enslaved those pieces of fucking shit.
We're gonna win.
I rule the fucking world. Those pieces of shit get ruled by people like me. They look up and see a face like mine looking down at them. That's how the fucking world works. We are gonna destroy this fucking town.
What you just heard there was Richard Spencer, one of the leading voices in the alt-right/white nationalist movements, which have only grown in prominence since Donald Trump became president a couple years ago. And what we see is that the mask comes off in that moment. Richard Spencer and all those like him have tried so hard to paint themselves as the defenders of free speech, of basic liberties, of European Western civilization, and the values of free speech and of pluralism that underpin that worldview. And so they paint themselves as defenders of those things against the left, against the diversity mongers, against the SJWs, against Antifa, against anyone that stands against them, basically. And so they're seen as the defenders of free speech, and everyone who opposes them is seen as people trying to silence legitimate and rational debate. Because that's all they're trying to have, guys. They're just trying to have discussions, trying to get to the truth. And if only the leftists didn't shut them down on the streets or shut them down on campuses, then we could find that truth. But in this moment, you hear, it's not about free speech. It's not about democracy. It's not about ensuring that all voices are heard. It's not about rational debate above all else. Richard Spencer and those like him, other white nationalists, many figures on the alt-right, really fundamentally believe that they are racially superior. That based on God-given rights or genetic-given rights, that as white men, they shall enslave people and they shall subjugate people. And that those people, in this case, people of color and Jewish people, will be forced to look up to their white masters. And that's what Spencer is saying, guys. Fundamentally, he's saying that my ancestors enslaved their ancestors, and I wish to do the same, and I will not stop until I have done the same. And why he's angry here is that the Charlottesville incident where Heather Heyer was killed by a white nationalist discredited their movement. He's not angry about what actually happened. He's angry because it hurts their cause. And their cause is the removal of basic human rights and dignity from all those who are not them and who do not think like them. That's Richard Spencer's goal. So we need to talk about a few things. We need to talk about how when the mask comes off, when white nationalists and many alt-rightists don't think that anyone's listening to them, they will speak their truth, and their truth is fundamentally ugly. We also have to talk about how many people have warned mainstream media and other sources about Richard Spencer and those like them, saying that they have these views fundamentally, even if they're not always spotlighted. And CNN and many other major news sources continue to treat Richard Spencer and those like him as legitimate voices of discourse and debate and media coverage and what have you. And we see what he believes. This is somebody that has been made to be a mainstream representative in our media, given far more screen time than anybody on the left gets in many ways. Anybody on the actual left gets far less prominence from our mainstream media than Richard Spencer has. And we see his views. And even when Donald Trump said there's fine people on both sides in references to some of the protests, suggesting that, on both sides, the anti-racist protesters and the pro-racist protesters, there's fine people on both sides. Well, let's be 100% real with people like Richard Spencer, and he's not the only one. When you say there are fine people on both sides, you're saying people like Richard Spencer are fine, and either you're lying or you're a monster just like them. And with Donald Trump, folks, I think it's the latter. All of this is fundamentally important to hear. Maybe it's not a surprise to you or to me or to people who regularly follow the dangerous nature of the far right in digital and in real life spaces. But for millions of people, they only hear people like Richard Spencer when they're nice and polished on mainstream media, where they get to sound like they're just defending rational discourse, when they get to sound like they're just sticking up for the Western European values that underpin us all, when they get to sound like it's the left who are protesting them that are the ones who are unreasonable, and that are the ones who are un-American, and that are the ones who are against, public discourse and against the Bill of Rights, and on and on and on. But know this. There's a fundamental belief by people like Richard Spencer that they should have dominion, that they should dominate, that they should subjugate all people who are not like them, Jewish people, people of color, on and on and on. And if you have those beliefs are un-American, at least un-American now. And those beliefs, you better believe, will be parlayed into policy that take away the fundamental rights and expression of all those who do not fit the dominant racial and ethnic and religious and genetic class. You can 100% believe and guarantee that if Richard Spencer could build his ideal society, free speech would not be available to all those who he deems enslaved and deems to be part of the underclass. We need this video to go absolutely mega viral, folks, because at the end of the day, everyone needs to see what the alt-right, what the white nationalists, what they look like when no one's listening. This is what they sound like. This is the society they want to build.